let's speak to Antti Ammala. Antti is from the Crisis Management Initiative in the Finnish capital, Helsinki. Antti, this is just one country because globally, 94 journalists lost their lives in the year 2018, according to the International Journalists Federation. Yemen seems a particular case. You'll remember very well that the United Nations has found that the Saudi-led bombing campaign has been responsible for killing more children in terms of just minors being killed in Yemen's war. A bomb does not discriminate. It can't see the words press written on a reporter's jacket or their helmet. I'm not sure if Antti can hear me. Shall we try again? Antti Ammala,
Yes,
can you hear me in Helsinki?
I can hear you now, please. Could you
Yeah, I
repeat
was just
the
talking about
question?
the fact that Yemen is a particular kind of conflict, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, it's a very brutal war that has been going on for many years. And I think also with the case of journalists being killed and tortured and kidnapped, you can see this sort of culture of impunity spreading in Yemen as well. So the international community is unable to do anything about these threats against journalists. And this feeds into a culture of self-censorship. So global audiences can't really know exactly what's going on in the war. So that's a problem.
But it's not only in Yemen, of course, that journalists have lost their lives. There are some countries which are nowhere near the level of conflict that Yemen is in. How much do you think the lives of journalists are placed at risk by the rhetoric of leaders? And I won't even mention the one in the United States. We all know how he talks about fake news. But you look at Hungary, Viktor Orban, you look at the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, and the things that they say about journalists. And they're, again, just two more examples, possibly taking their lead from Washington, D.C.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, globally, this has been a bad year for journalists in general. So there's a decline in democracy, decline in freedom of speech. At the same time, there's a rise of authoritarianism and populism. So this affects directly the security of journalists. And this is not something we're seeing only in conflict countries or some other countries, but also in Europe. A few journalists have been killed in Europe as well recently. So very bad situation.
Yes, they most certainly have. Antti, are there any international conventions? You said there's nothing the international community is really able to do, but are there any international conventions that protect reporters from doing their work in whichever part of the world there may be? Again, now it just occurs to me that in Mexico, journalists' lives are very, very much at risk because of the drug wars that are going on in that country. What sort of protection do they have in terms of international agreements?
Well, you have a few international norms and agreements. The problem is that they're not implemented and they're not enough. So I think we need more international norms and rules so that different governments would play by the rules. And I think we need more pressure on governments or on different warring sides in conflicts, for example, to implement these rules and protect journalists.
Antti, what did you make of the killing of Jamal Khashoggi? The 2nd of October, the Saudi citizen, permanent resident of the United States, walks into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, of course, and then gets asphyxiated and his body is chopped up. What did you make of that in terms of the risks to reporters around the world, the highest price possible that is paid along with the 93 others if Jamal would be the 94th to die in 2018?
Well, I think this case is an example of this culture that I just mentioned of sort of impunity as well, and the deterioration of democracy and freedom of speech. So severe case, and I think we need to look at it as an example of this worsening situation and really pay attention to it and build international norms and put pressure on different sides to protect journalists.
Antti, thank you very much indeed for your time. That's Antti Ammala speaking to us from Helsinki in Finland.